While in power in Afghanistan, the Taliban became notorious internationally for their discrimination against women. Afghan women were forced to wear the burqa at all times. Women and girls were systematically discriminated against and marginalized. Their human rights utterly violated. But that was not always the case with Afghan women. From the 19th century and through the 20th century, the rulers of Afghanistan consistently attempted to lessen women's restrictions in the country. Among them was King Amanullah, who ruled from 1919 to 1929 and made some of the more noteworthy changes in an attempt to modernize the country. King Amanullah promoted freedom for women in the public sphere in order to lessen the control that patriarchal families had over women. He stressed the importance for young girls and women to receive an education. Students from elementary and middle schools emulated their counterparts in the European countries, learning about nature trails, camping and public safety. Along with encouraging families to send their daughters to school, he promoted the unveiling of women and persuaded them to adopt a more Western style of dress. In 1921, he created a law that abolished forced marriage, child marriage, bride price, and put restrictions on polygamy, a common practice among households in Afghanistan. Modern social reform for Afghan women began when Queen Soraya made rapid reforms to improve women's lives and their position in the family. In 1946, Queen Humera created the Women's Society, which was the first ever women's institute in Afghanistan. In 1959, she supported the call by the Prime Minister Mohammad Daoud Khan for women to voluntarily remove the veil by removing her own. One particularly interesting segment in the history of Afghan women is during the 1960s. The government oversaw various rural development programs where female nurses were sent in jeeps to remote areas and villages to inoculate residents from diseases such as cholera. In 1964, women helped to draft Afghanistan's third constitution, which gave women the right to vote and opened the doors of elected office to women. Throughout most of the 1960s and 1970s, women saw increased participation in politics. Ruqya Habib Abubi Akr, Massima Ismati Wardak and Dr. Anahita Ratizad were elected as members of parliament subsequent to adoption of the third constitution, while Humera Malikyar Salajiki and Aziza Gardiji were appointed as senators. It was not unusual for men and women to casually mingle at movie theaters and on university campuses. On coming to power in April 1978, the PDPA government began to implement serious reforms favoring women, such as eliminating the bride price, educating women and freeing them from the burqa. During this time it made significant advances towards modernization. More women were able to hold jobs as scientists, teachers, doctors, and civil servants and had a considerable amount of freedom with significant educational opportunities. They formed child care centers in their workplaces to make it easier for women to work. Maternity leave was extended to 3 months from 6 weeks and they were still getting their salary. The Afghan government also began mass literacy campaigns and provided free medical care. They banned bride price and forced marriage among others, and the minimum age for marriage was raised, among other advances in both matrimonial and women's rights. They also stressed the importance of education in Afghanistan. The government stressed education for both women and men. They also set up literacy programs in the country. During communist rule, the PDPA government reformed the education system. Education was stressed for both sexes, and widespread literacy programs were set up. By 1988, women made up 40% of the doctors and 60% of the teachers at Kabul University. 440,000 female students were enrolled in different educational institutions and 80,000 more in literacy programs. The majority of women, however, lived in poverty and were excluded from these opportunities. In 1977, the Revolutionary Association of the Women of Afghanistan, RAWA, was founded by Meena Keshwar Kamal in Kabul, which launched a bilingual magazine titled Woman's Message, Payam-e-Zan, in 1981 and organized events in the city of Kabul for several years to mark International Women's Day. By the late 1980s, women made up 40% of the country's doctors. Women doctors were in high demand, especially in rural areas, where women were still strictly secluded and barred from consulting male doctors. %60 of the instructors at Kabul University and 65% of the student body were women. Family courts, in some cases presided over by female judges, had replaced the Mullah Sharia courts. The number of working women increased 50-fold. By 1987, there were an estimated 245,000 women working in fields ranging from construction, printing and food processing to radio and TV journalism, and especially teaching, where they made up 70% of the workforce.